Some crimes fade with the passage of time, their details blurring until they're little more than forgotten files. But others refuse to be forgotten. They linger in the public consciousness, a constant, nagging reminder of a story without an end. This is one of those stories, a tale of murder that never found justice, leaving behind a legacy of silence, suspicion, and unanswered questions. Years have passed, yet the truth remains buried, hidden somewhere between what was said and what was never revealed. The setting for this tragedy was an ordinary, quiet community in the UK. It was the kind of place where daily life ran on routine, where familiar faces greeted each other on the street, and where serious crime was something people only read about in the news, something that happened elsewhere. That comforting belief was shattered in a single night. The victim was not a public figure. They weren't wealthy or involved in anything that would draw unwanted attention. They lived a simple, private life, followed a regular work schedule, and maintained a small circle of trusted friends and family. In the aftermath, those who knew them best repeated the same sentiment, a chorus of disbelief. There was no reason for this to happen. On the day of the murder, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The victim went about their usual routine, speaking to people they trusted. There were no visible signs of fear, no hints of distress. No one noticed anything unusual or out of place. But by the end of that day, everything had irrevocably changed. The discovery of the body immediately raised alarm bells. The circumstances were deeply unsettling. The location wasn't random. It suggested a chilling familiarity between the killer and the victim. This didn't look like a spontaneous act of violence. It felt planned, personal. Police were called to the scene, and the area was quickly sealed off. The questions began almost immediately. Investigators combed through the scene, but what they found only deepened the mystery. There were no clear signs of forced entry, no obvious murder weapon left behind, and no definitive evidence of a struggle. The forensic evidence that was collected was limited and ultimately inconclusive. Instead of providing clear answers, every new piece of information only created more confusion. It was as if the killer had meticulously planned every step, every detail, leaving behind a ghost-like trail. Detectives began the painstaking process of interviewing everyone connected to the victim: friends, family members, neighbors, co-workers, anyone who might have seen or heard something, anything, no matter how insignificant it seemed. Several individuals quickly became persons of interest. Each one raised questions, and each one carried a shadow of suspicion. But none of them came with proof. Statements from different people conflicted. Timelines failed to align perfectly. Small details in their accounts seemed to shift subtly with each telling. There was nothing strong enough to justify an arrest, nothing solid enough to bring charges against anyone. The investigation pressed on, but progress was agonizingly slow. As more details emerged, the case grew even darker. Small inconsistencies that were initially overlooked started to stand out. Moments that didn't quite make sense began to feel significant. Why was the victim at that specific location? Why at that particular time? And, perhaps most disturbingly, why was no one else present? Each unanswered question felt like another layer of earth being piled on top of the truth, pushing it further and further out of reach. In the absence of facts, rumors began to spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community. Speculation filled the void left by evidence. Theories formed, collapsed, and were built up again in new and different ways. Some people became convinced the killer was someone close to the victim, a person hiding in plain sight. Others believed the culprit was someone who was never even on the police radar. But belief, no matter how strong, is not evidence. And without evidence, there could be no justice. Eventually, the momentum of the investigation slowed to a crawl. Leads dried up. The memories of potential witnesses faded and became less reliable with time. The case was officially classified as cold. No arrests were ever made. No one was held responsible for the life that was taken. For the victim's family, the pain never ended. There was no closure, no final chapter, no explanation for their devastating loss. For the community, a subtle but profound shift occurred. Trust quietly eroded. People started locking their doors more carefully. Familiar places, once comforting, now felt tainted by an invisible unease. Today, the case remains unsolved, a silent file tucked away in a dusty archive. A person was killed. A family lost someone they loved forever. The truth was never officially confirmed. Someone, somewhere, knows exactly what happened that day. They carry the weight of that secret with them. The only question that remains is whether that truth will ever come to light, whether this case will remain another silent, unresolved story that history refuses to forget. Thank you for watching. If you found this case as compelling as we did, please like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the unknown.